Hello and welcome back to E3BL podcast. I'm your host Hagen, joined by Britley Kevin.
Hello.
And today it's just the two of us because this assignment was a duo assignment, so it will be just Kevin and I. Today we'll be discussing the book Wuthering Heights once more and our critical lens based on the certain aspects of the book, whilst also defending each of our claims and any misconceptions or opinions that are had about them. And for those who read Wuthering Heights, it's a story about a man named Heathcliff who becomes vengeance obsessed with when his soulmate marries off to another man. Heathcliff wrecks. Oh, there's a typo there. Heathcliff wrecks the people around him, and even affecting the next generation that follows him. Our critical lens assignment had us essentially analyze a particular lens that addresses gender, class, ethnicity in Wuthering Heights. Kevin, or should I go first?
Oh, I can go first.
Oh, all right. Yeah, go ahead, Kevin. Just start with your first one.
Okay, so I looked at Catherine and Heathcliff's relationship through a social norms lens. So what I think that the author's choice was that she was trying to show how social norms are hurting these people's relationships by forcing them to act out or act differently than they want to in order to keep up with class expectations. So one example I have in chapter 8 is after Catherine hurts herself and spends a few weeks in with the Lintons, she comes back and Ellie explains that, quote, she gained the admiration of Isabella and the heart and soul of her brother. Acquisitions that flattered her from the first, she was full of ambition and led her to adopt a double character without exactly intending to deceive anyone. This shows how just realizing how she can be seen differently through class that she basically changed her whole character. And I'll throw you a second quote. This one I used last time. It was how when Edgar proposes to Catherine, she says to Nellie that marrying Heathcliff would degrade her, and that he's more myself than I am, she says. Here we see that Catherine's only reason for rejecting him is because she thinks that it'll suit her better if she marries Edgar because he has more money and Heathcliff is a lower class than he is. She ends up being miserable because of this, and so does Heathcliff, who never gets over this for his entire life, and just doing this out of social norms basically ruins their entire lives and the lives of the next generation.
So you're saying that these social norms that is Isabella, right? Or Catherine?
Catherine.
Catherine. Yeah, Catherine abides by essentially changes her entire behavior, is it right?
Yeah, it changes how she acts and what her goals are, and it isn't for the better either. It makes her more miserable through the whole book.
Mm-hmm. It's probably partially gender as well as these gender rules set by society and those social norms that also were set there.
Yeah, probably she is more pressured to follow the rules because of her gender as well.
Yeah, forcing them to abide by certain behaviors of conduct when behaving themselves in these situations. Marriage being one of those situations. I also
go ahead.
No,
you can go ahead. Okay, so I also said that at that time period it would be hard to move up and down through classes. Yeah, Heathcliff does go from when he originally arrives, he goes from unwanted to the owner of Wuthering Heights. So it does show that you can move up, but while doing this, he becomes more and more miserable. By the time he does own Wuthering Heights, he isn't having a happy life at all.
Yeah, money does not lead to happiness all the time.
Heathcliff.
Yeah. No, it does come into question of where he received this money.
He just disappeared and I guess did something and earned the money.
It just blinked into existence. 1 second, Kevin. Shut up! Sorry.
It's fine.
Are there any other characters we can see this behavior? I guess. Wait, no. Heathcliff kind of goes against this, right?
Yeah, he does move up, but it
Yeah.
still does show how doing all these things does make you miserable.
Like
Following what
yeah,
they want from you.
yeah, he starts as lower class, but he doesn't act lower class at all. Well,
Yep.
no, he does in a sense when he's
Well, he's treated as lower class.
yes, he's treated as lower class, but I don't think he has this. I don't think so. To a degree, it does influence his behavior because someone with a more uptight, more respectful, high class individual wouldn't probably resort to such means of aggression like Edgar.
Yeah.
So he does retain like some sense of what class he originally started from, but yeah, I guess it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
What I also saw it as, like when he was in the bottom class, I guess with Catherine as well, before she went with the Lintons, they were both happy-ish there, at least more happy than they were when Catherine finally decided that she deserves more, and then Heathcliff also started trying to move up, and then they both became happy.
Yeah. All right. Good critical lens. A bit of a review from last time, but that's fine. We can further on the topic. Okay, I guess I'll go. So my critical lens from last week was stating how these social, it was a class-based critical lens, and I discussed sort of the state of a class instead of it being a position or role, it being a state of mind, essentially, and how that these things aren't defined as they are once, but are defined differently over the course of the events in the story. So, one of the most notable figures displaying this, what I said would be Heathcliff, starting as an orphan, picked up by Mr. Earnshaw, and then starting from the lowest class in the world, and rising up alongside Wuthering Heights and the family members there, to eventually become a somewhat middle class, higher class individual. However, he is still mistreated by Hindley, putting him down, and having him retain that social standing of lower class, which is also what Catherine hadn't forgotten as well, which is what leads her to marry Edgar and have Heathcliff reminded of his social class, even though that was something that would better left in the past. No, that's not the good point. Something that she hadn't forgotten about. That's probably better, yeah. Some quotes to go along with that would be the "So he shall never know how I love him." ... More myself than I am. ... And whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same. On page 87. And how the lower class is always thought to depend upon the upper class and never rise up beyond their social borders. And providing comfort to the higher classes that they would not revolt or attempt to climb that social ladder. Catherine, who thought Heathcliff would remain faithful to her because of her reminding of his lower class status or mindset, was faithful that or believed in that Heathcliff would remain with her even if she decided to marry Edgar. And it's because of this and how Catherine is unable to see beyond the state of mind of social class that he runs away. Yeah.
Yeah. So the state of mind would explain why Heathcliff really was able to kind of move up the social ladder to the top.
It's not a position or role. It's a mindset.
Yep, and he, out of vengeance, he wanted to do it, and he was able to.
Yes. And which brings his sheer willpower gave him all that money.
He just spawned it in, and then it worked. I guess it worked for him since he did get to the top, but
it's a state of mind, right?
He was
think rich.
Yeah, but he wasn't happy either when he got there, so it really wasn't worth it. In fact, it was probably a bad thing too, because then he messed with the next generation as well.
Yeah. One man's actions brings havoc across generations of individuals. Alrighty, moving along to our second critical lenses. Kevin?
So for my second one, I looked at. Wait, Hagen, let's pause here for a little bit.
Oh, yeah, sure. Alright, now on to you, Kevin.
Okay, so for my next quote, Catherine says, if Edgar and I marry, we can aid Heathcliff to power. Here she's trying
Kevin,
to...
Kevin. You didn't state your critical lens.
Oh, right, I didn't do that before the pause. You know what?
No, cut.
Stop it. Okay, so to expand further on my social norms critical lens, Catherine says to Nellie, if Edgar and I marry, we can aid Heathcliff to power. Here she's trying to justify attempting to move up the social ladder, making it seem like it's a charitable act, like she's doing it for other people. When we know that she's probably lying here and she's doing it for herself, while still showing that she has feelings for Heathcliff by mentioning how much she still cares about him. But she's gonna still ignore these feelings, knowing that she wants to move up still. That's what society expects from her.
Yeah, human nature is a difficult thing to go against, and self-preservation is probably one of those key factors in that.
Yeah, it's like she's being forced to choose between her class standing or what she wants to do, her happiness.
Raising
Especially
Heathcliff's standards may have just been an added benefit that she mentioned.
Yeah, like that probably wasn't her actual goal. If anything, probably wasn't even a goal that she had to do.
I mean,
but at the time, like she chose what she. Yeah.
At the time, you'd probably want to do your best to maintain what you have, right? As a woman.
Yeah, especially as a woman.
Have that much power, so losing that little power that you already had would probably be a bit devastating to them.
Yeah, she probably thought she was doing at least a smarter move, although, as it turns out, Heathcliff wasn't just going to let it pass that easily.
Yeah.
And then, once he was finally at the top, he was filled with vengeance and took it out on the next generation as well.
Yes.
So no one ended up being happy with the situation, even though he also made it to the top by owning Wuthering Heights.
Yeah, and then once he was in control of everything, he reflected on what he had done, realizing that that was all there was to do now, since the acts that he had planned for so long were done.
Wasn't worth it anymore.
And that's probably where he converts to his death phase and realizes that he doesn't have that much time left and passes away.
Yep.
Leaving us with a new future, a brighter one, hopefully for the remnants of this disastrous drama war. All right. Good critical lens extension, Kevin. I'll do mine now. So instead of social class, I did gender this time. I was touching up on this about woman empowerment and all that earlier from Kevin's critical lens, but mine is about the role of men and women in Wuthering Heights and how this book may be a plea or a cry or a declaration of gender rights, possibly.
Yep.
The shift of gender roles in the beginning of the book and towards the end of the book, with Edgar and Heathcliff's war and outbringing and conflicts at the beginning and towards the end, the showing of and a redemption of Catherine and Nellie and showing their part of the story. So for the first part, and how, in my opinion, exemplified the male dominance essentially was how that I described them as both tyrants in their right, Edgar and Heathcliff. Heathcliff, with this quote from Isabella, stating, asking is Heathcliff a man? If so, is he mad? And if not, is he a devil? Page 149. And Edgar being selfish towards those around him, even not replying to his sister's cry for help, with the quote, Linton did not reply to this, I believe, from page 148. And this display kind of showed how the dominance of man ruled ruled over the state of things, and this may also be a representation of the author's way of seeing how men control people's lives. Now, later on, with the revealing of Nellie's sacrificial acts for her mistress, with the quote, "She could marry again. It does not have to come within my province to arrange." From page 326, she narrates the fact that she was trying to convince Mr. Lockwood this entire time to save her mistress. But this was before the events of Catherine marrying and redeeming herself in the aspect to go against Heathcliff and his past revenge onslaught, highlighting the power of women and their action and how their actions should not go dismissed. Thoughts?
So yeah, with Edgar, it was interesting how he always considered him he considered himself more powerful, while he knew that he was losing to, at least in his deathbed, he knew that he was losing to Heathcliff.
Yeah. And with the... Well,
it's like they weren't gonna...
Yeah, Edgar's death would probably be a very symbolic moment of the power shift of gender roles, with the tyrants passing and the new generation showing hope for the future.
Yeah, by his deathbed, he approved what Kathy was doing, so it does show how he was a little less strict or ruling over them.
Yes. And the relievance of seeing how how his daughter was doing well. Any more thoughts, Calvin?
Yes. That's all I have.
Alrighty. Okay, I think that will wrap up our podcast. Everyone, thank you. Everyone, or people who are watching, which will probably be not that many, because...
Listening, it's audio.
Well, at least we'll have our teacher watching. Thank you for watching. Kevin, any final remarks before we end it off?
I'll also say thank you for watching. That is my final remark.
Alrighty. Thank you all. We'll see you in the next one.